morning. This is Chip with The Real Dirt, and on today's Dirt, I have Brian Weiss. Say hello, Brian.
Hello, Chip. Hello, world.
Hello. Brian is the brother of one of my really good friends, and he's been in the cannabis industry for a while. Brian runs LA Cannabis News, which is an information source for all things cannabis in LA, Southern California. But right now, Brian is stuck. I shouldn't say stuck. He is on sabbatical in Florida. How you doing, Brian?
I'm well, Chip. Thank you so much for having me today. I really appreciate it.
Oh man, I'm glad we could put it together. Uh, you know, I left California a number of years ago, but it's always a warm place in my heart. We still own property there and whatnot. And something that people don't understand or realize is that if you want the best weed in the world, you go to LA to get it. I don't
It's true.
care who you are, where you're at. You do not have the best weed in the world. They got it in LA though. Right.
It's true.
It's
They
true. Why
do. They
why do
do.
you think that is, man?
I grew up in the San Fernando Valley, and I think the San Fernando Valley actually has the best weed of Los Angeles. Why? Don't know, but it just seems that they've perfected it. Maybe the fact that normally people think of Humboldt County, and a lot of that gets flown or driven down to LA, and distributed. And so and then other people have gotten the idea, wow, they have such good flower from up north. I think we could produce that same flower down here, and many growers have figured out how to and have successfully.
Yeah. Just like all things, there's like a flash that goes on in LA, and cannabis is the same way. And I feel that it's probably one of the most informed consumer markets in the world, even.
Hmm.
Like in LA, you could, the random stoner can go into any dispensary and say, "Oh no, man, that's Hell's Angels OG, not Fire OG, and I want Cookies OG, and this isn't cookie, this is gelato." It just
It's
the
funny you say that.
mm-hmm.
I've actually, not to interrupt you. I have that same feeling from being someone a little bit older when I go into dispensaries and I have that pre 98 Bubba. I'm like, this isn't pre 98 Bubba.
Those are just letters and words. This isn't it. Yeah, no doubt. The other thing about Southern California is, man, it has brought the highest prices for cannabis historically, and because of that, like people like try to like bring their highest quality product to the marketplace. Not just anything will sell there, right? So you get this, and this upper echelon curated cannabis in LA that might be produced anywhere in California. It might be produced in Southern California, could produce way up north in San Francisco, but it comes to LA for a reason, because it's the best and people want the best there.
Hmm. Absolutely.
Hey,
Absolutely.
what's the average prices for weed?
So it's funny you say that. I found that there are dispensaries in LA on the legal side, and it seems that most of them are charging between $25 an eighth to $90 an eighth. And then you have the
Wow.
black market side where they keep it average between 35 and 50 an eighth.
Now, when you say black market, explain to the listeners what's going on in Southern California with the dispensaries.
So there are hundreds, if not thousands, of dispensaries in LA. Only about 100 or so are actually legal. But when we had Proposition 215, there was no really regulation on who was legal and who was not. Everybody claimed they were legal. As
Mm.
every year, it seemed like they came out with another law that said that these dispensaries need to shut down, but they just kept going. And when cannabis finally became legal, there were those that could survive and pay the taxes, and there were those that couldn't survive, but or actually, well, could still survive, but not charge the taxes. And so the black market side is actually, for me, I feel that a lot of these illicit, I don't like to say black market, I like to say actually illicit market, dispensaries
I'm a
are
private market guy. It's
a
private
private
market.
market guy. Yeah, a private market guy.
No
Private
taxes,
market
just
dispense.
between
Yeah, no
friends.
taxes. They also have, to me, I feel like they also have the better product. I really do. I feel like
Mm.
they have a lot better
Well, they're
product,
open
and
to far more growers that way, you know,
that's true.
right?
It's
There's
true.
only, I mean, for instance, in Humboldt County, you know, to that like 7, 8 years ago, the government said there were 13,000 grows up there. Right. Yeah, totally.
Wow.
And now there's like a few hundred legal
Yep.
ones, you know,
Hmm.
dude, it hasn't even touched the number of growers that are there yet.
Yeah, totally. I also see that, in many cases at least, that it seems like, I mean, again, with the better product side, it's like when I go to a legal dispensary, a lot of the problem I have, at least when I go there, is that you look at something in the jar that you can't touch and you can barely smell. And when you purchase it and you get home and you open it, a lot of the time for me, without naming, company names, there's a dried Bovita pack in there, and the product is probably at least 6 months old. And
Mm,
and you think about it, and you start tracing it. It's like, okay, well, this product came from a grower, and then it went to some warehouse somewhere, then it went to some distribution center, then it sat on their shelves for a
yeah,
little while, and then by the time it
yeah.
actually gets to the dispensary, it's not what the brand promotes. And with at least going with the black market side or the illicit or the private market side, you got to go in, you got to touch it, you got to feel it, you got to know that you're getting a good product on the spot.
Yeah,
And
many people have said that legal weed has decreased the quality of cannabis, right?
mhm,
And the mechanization of it, the like, man, those Gavita packs and the plastic unair sealed bottles and just like breaking buds down into like tenth of a gram to sell it, like, oh, it just all ruins it. It just ruins it all.
totally, I totally agree with that statement. Yeah, yeah, I just totally agree.
Mm.
Um,
So let's talk about LA cannabis news.
what do you want to know?
Tell me what it is. Tell me your story. Tell me how you
So
figured
yeah,
how you
so
wanted to start this.
so I was looking for about 2 years ago. I was looking for something to potentially invest in the cannabis industry as cannabis became legal in California, and I found myself searching dozens of sites through Google. I would type
Mm-hmm.
in cannabis news, Los Angeles cannabis news, Los Angeles marijuana news, and I would find, dozens of different sources that carried different articles, great articles, but I couldn't find one source. And so I moved my search from finding something to invest in, with my research of all these articles to, wow, is there any local cannabis news? And when I found out that there was no local cannabis news in LA, I was like, oh my God, how is this possible? With so much going on here besides, just legalization, but you have social equity and you have the illicit side of it and you have the regulations and the taxes and, education and science and, medical stuff. And so I was like, someone needs to be covering this. And after finding out and figuring out that there was no local coverage for Southern California or for Los Angeles, I then started searching, wow, is there local coverage or, any of this in other states? And at the time, there was only the Cannabis in Denver, which quickly went out of business. And I found that all of a sudden there was no local cannabis news other than, local newspapers in Humboldt County or patch.com that had their own local coverage, but not in
Lost
anything
Coast
that was,
Outpost.
yeah, there you go. Actually, that one too.
Right. Right.
Um, but there wasn't, I felt like there was a need. And so I started LA Cannabis News. I went on GoDaddy.com and LACannabisNews.com was available for $1.99. And I was like, I'm on to something
Yeah.
here. And a year and a half later now, we've got about 30 plus thousand people on our site a month, about 50,000 email subscribers, which is awesome. And it's great because with LA Cannabis News, it was almost like our MVP. we were able to test our assumptions and see that the market wanted and needed a local, cannabis news source. So that's basically how we started.
So, and I mean, this is an online publication. How often do you have an official publication date or publication timeline, or just do it every day, or is it an on running blog? Like, what? How does it work?
Yeah, so every day we aggregate about 10 to 15 stories that mostly cover Southern California. Some stories do cover other parts of the country just because it's important in the cannabis industry, even if you're just in Los Angeles, to know what also is happening around the country or even around the world. So most of the time we do aggregate our stories. Most of it is not original content. However, we do have stories here and there that we want to cover, and we do have writers for that. And every year, actually, which we just put out at the beginning of March, we do a top 50. Well, not every year because we've only been in business for 2 years, but we did it last year and we did it this year. We put out a product issue covering brands that are not covered in other magazines. What do I mean by that? Other magazines have a pay to play, just like the
Yeah,
retail
right.
does, and you've got to pay them money if you want to be in their magazine. And I saw that all these other magazines, mostly cultured lifestyle magazines in the cannabis industry, covered the same brands. If you look at their top 10 this or their top 10 that, it was the same brands every single time. And I was like, well, what about all these other brands? There's so many other great brands out there. And so we did the research, and this year we came up with 53 brands, and we put out a digital product issue, and we didn't review the brands because, in all honesty, half of them were good and half of them weren't. But we put out, the description about the brand. We gave them their social media, links, their website, where to find these products, and and a nice little picture of the brand. And it's great because these smaller brands, they can't afford to be in these bigger magazines. So for us, it was
Right.
it's a good outreach for these smaller brands to say, hey, look, we've got some press now. And so
Hmm.
yeah, so we put out this digital issue, but we mainly stick to daily postings of about 10 to 15 articles a day. Oh, and we also have about 100 events on our site at any given time throughout Los Angeles and California that people can look for.
Oh, so did you rank these products 1 to 50? No, you just
No, we
listed
just put
them.
them in alphabetical order.
Okay. Okay. Hey, what were some of your favorite products?
To be honest, I'm a huge fan of 3C Farms. They're out
Hmm.
of Los Angeles. They actually own also the Coast to Coast dispensary in LA.
Mm-hmm.
They put out quality product from the prices that I've seen in their dispensary at a good price. I like Golden Seed. They're a little on the higher side pricing wise, but it's not Golden State, excuse me, Golden State.
Golden State.
I like their products, and then I like some of the edible companies that we used, like Plus Products. I like their edibles a lot. Kana, which is owned by I think Thunderstorm. They make fantastic gummies. And then on the vape side, I'm a big Moxie 710 fan. I think they
Mm.
do nice products that seem like they taste pretty good. I'm not a big vapor, but from the products that I tried, I like theirs the most.
Yeah, we're ABX, absolute
Oh yeah,
vape
we have
people.
them as well in there.
Hmm.
We
Yeah.
they're lucky because they're the letter A, so they appeared pretty quickly
Oh,
in the magazine.
right, right. Well, they're pretty big. I mean, I'm surprised
Yeah.
they weren't in like the category of normal. I mean, of the elite cannabis people that can advertise to pay to play.
Yeah, it seems that, as I explore ways of us making revenue, um, that the bigger cannabis brands that are crazy outlandish,
Hmm.
that just have millions upon millions of dollars to spend,
Right.
they'll pay to play. It seems like the smarter brands, even if they're bigger, they know that there's no reason for them to pay to play because they're a fantastic brand and they can, sort of
Yeah.
themselves, and they'd rather get the better bang for their buck.
Oh man, this is a great marketing lesson that we should put out there. I've go to dozens of trade shows. I've had for 20 years, all cannabis oriented. And there's this misnomer that if you're a new person, you need to come in and spend like shit tons of money at the trade show in order to get noticed.
Yeah.
And if you watch the bigger companies, like the actual bigger companies, not the ones that
Hmm.
seem big, they're not spending that
Hmm.
much money, right? They've
Hmm.
got some personnel, they've got maybe a larger booth than normal, but yeah, the biggest people in the trade show industry, the biggest revenue producers, they actually are spend like mid-tier and not
Yeah.
like top tier, right?
Yep.
And the top tier spenders are often people who aren't that big but want you to think they're big, right?
Oh
And they
yeah.
just happen to have the $20,000 or $30,000 to sponsor the banner and the lanyards and the water cup and the big booth up
All the
front,
swag.
all the swag. And it makes them feel, it kind of makes them feel good. But man, the thing about the trade shows is the vendors, they're the customer there,
Yep.
so
And also, I see that a lot of these bigger companies, it's you're not as the customers are walking around booth to booth, their potential clients. There's one guy or one girl that represents the company, and then they have promotional people that have no idea what they're talking about.
yeah, totally,
And
totally.
it's like if you're going to spend that kind of money, you should bring out people that are going to help you get
Yeah.
business as opposed to just someone to take a picture with.
Well, there's not so much TNA as there used to be in our industry. I mean, it came over pretty hard when it in the trade shows when it first started 10 or 15 years
Hmm.
ago, that there was the scantily clad female or male there, and they were
Yeah.
like, trying to draw people in. And man, there's still some of that, but in the hydro weed industry, it's mostly gone to the authentic reps or there,
Yeah.
right? The people who own the
Yeah.
companies, and I should say there's a lot of that going on, right?
I was just going to say that I think the conferences that are more B2B
Mm-hmm.
have the right reps there. The conferences
Yeah.
that are more B2C facing, they have that scantily clad, you
Yeah.
know,
Right. Right.
world there,
Right.
which is
No,
understandable to a degree.
you're right. And uh, interesting about cannabis is now it's so much of it's B2B.
Hmm.
And it used to, I am Cultivate Colorado, Cultivate OKC. We're one of the largest hydroponic shops in the country. And, people have called me a home grow shop in the past. And yeah, man, we help home growers all over the world blow out their closets and their basements and smoke good weed. But mostly it's a business to business transaction we have. Most
Of
of our
course.
customers are in business for cannabis.
Hmm. Do you see, let me ask you a question. So as you just mentioned, you help, clients blow out their closets and their basements. Do you see, and I sort of see this in my own personal opinions and views as the industry grows and goes forward and goes backwards and then goes forward again,
Mhm.
that maybe home grow or home growers will become a thing of the future more, and more people
Oh,
will start growing at home
no,
as
it's
opposed to
now.
going to dispensaries.
No,
Oh,
it's
it's now.
happening now. Oh, it's happening now, Brian. Check out what's
Fantastic.
happening, man. So like in all these states that have passed some sort of medical marijuana or even
Yep.
thought about it, like Georgia, Alabama, Tennessee, dude, there's people all over that state that are growing a little bit of weed now because of it.
Nice.
Solely because the perceptions change, people's morals
Hmm.
have changed. And hemp and CBD has helped a lot here. But for
Hmm.
instance, when Oklahoma went medical last year, they got 200,000 people that signed up on the registry to have recommendations from doctors to
Wow.
buy at medical dispensaries. 200,000, dude.
That's
Same
crazy.
time, Missouri's having similar things going on. Michigan's having similar. You couldn't buy a grow tent in the country last year for 6
That's
months.
crazy.
I mean, not on
That's
time. You
crazy.
could order it, but like, and
Yeah.
then 110 lights, even up until recently, you couldn't get a 110 light because all the commercial people use 240, 277, right? It's all
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
home growers, they use the 110s.
Yeah.
So, man,
That's crazy.
home production's up here in Oklahoma. Man, home production's huge. Organic's huge. People feel like, organic is how weed should be grown, and people have
Hmm.
these perceptions of it, which is great, dude. I love it. And in Oklahoma, so many people are talking about organic. It's like Humboldt in the '90s. It's like, if it ain't organic, it ain't shit, you know?
Yeah, totally. That's awesome. And I'm glad to hear that that's happening. I am a huge advocate of that,
Oh, grow
moving
your
forward in
own,
the future.
man. And the thing about growing your own is you get this pride from doing it. And
Hmm.
it doesn't matter if someone else grows better weed than you do, or the dispensary grows different looking weed. Like for us, I never trim my own personal weed. Here, do I have some here? Look. Yeah, just a
Oh, that looks
leaf on it,
fantastic.
and I just like when I go to smoke it, I just pull the leaves off. It didn't look like the stuff in the dispensary. Right. But there's just this like, man, this complete joy when you get to like plant a small seed or buy a clone or
Yeah.
grow it and flower it. And then you have something that you can produce and that you're like, oh, I grew this. I put my love and energy into it.
It's also a
Yeah.
learning experience.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You learn about the weed,
Yeah,
learn about yourself. I've said this over and over again. I'm not sure who's cultivating who. Am I cultivating the plant or are they cultivating me?
it's a good
Right.
saying.
Man, I
It's
find so
true.
many analogies in it. Like, every time something's going on with the plant, I find the same things going on in my business or personal life
That's cool.
too.
It's a great synergy to have.
Oh yeah, man. So hey man, I think this is a perfect time for us to take a break. Let's take a break for 1 second. This is Chip with the Real Dirt. I'm speaking to Brian Weiss. We'll be right back. Hey guys, this is Chip from The Real Dirt. I'm sporting my Corona hairdo. Yeah, that's right. We're all going to have big hair after this. Hey, and I just want to let you guys know, man, that Cultivate Colorado, Cultivate OKC, we are still open and providing services to growers. Now, we're doing a little bit different right now. You have to call in your order, you have to email your order, but you can still come and pick it up at the shop. It's a will call type of situation. And in some places, we can absolutely deliver. So if you need some product, it doesn't matter if you need 1 light or 100, 1 bag of soil or a pallet of soil or a truckload of soil. Man, give us a call. We have huge stock right now. We always carry huge inventory of everything. And especially this time of year, it's time to get started on that garden earlier. So call us up at Cultivate Colorado, Cultivate OKC. You can look us up online, cultivatecolorado.com, cultivateokc.com. Talk to any one of our awesome people there, and they can help you grow. All right. Thanks for joining us again. Here we're back after our commercial break with The Real Dirt. Yeah, you like my you like my commercial style, Ryan.
I do. I like your commercial
Right.
style. It's very personable.
Very personal. When I first started this, Hollis Carter, he asked me, he gave me the idea. He said, "Hey, Chip, do you think you can talk about weed for an hour?"
Talking about
Like,
it for
oh
20
yeah,
hours.
yeah. Like, how many days, right? Do you want me to talk nonstop? Uh, but yeah,
That's funny.
we talk to the customers all the time. It gives me like this. I mean, I'm talking to people all the time about weed. It's not just like someone's random conversation, and you are too.
Mhm.
I mean, it's in the industry. It's what we do.
Yeah,
We love it. We live it. We talk about it all the time.
absolutely. Some people talk about it more than others, but I agree.
Yeah. Well, years ago, my wife said to me, there has to be some other conversation. You have to talk about something else different. And I was like, wow, you're right. I do. And so I started picking up some like hobbies. Right. And this
Mhm.
was like 15 years ago. And every couple of years, I'll pick up a new hobby or try to teach myself something that I have absolutely no idea about. Right.
Yep.
And it challenges everything I do. It gives me this mental toughness because I'm like, forced to learn about it. I've forced myself, and it's, I'm out of my comfort zone. I try to pick stuff that's hard and difficult. And, my most recent one was guitar. A couple years ago, I picked up the
Wow.
guitar.
I think my brother
And
did too recently.
yeah. We trade guitar licks back and forth. Aaron's actually, pretty good guitar player.
He
He's
played when he was younger.
he's got all that number stuff going on inside his head. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Right.
totally.
He can count better than us.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but yeah, you got any hobbies, Brian? You do anything other than weed?
Well, we were traveling, for
Mm.
a little while, which I really enjoy doing. I've been getting into some cooking stuff lately. As soon as I
Oh, I
actually
bet the
get
whole
back
world
to
has.
California, yeah, right. That's a good point. That's actually what triggered my cooking was
Yeah.
this whole special time that we're in right now. But ideally, actually, when I get back to California in September, actually, um, I would like to get into some type of woodworking. I've never
Mm.
been a woodworking person, but I have some friends recently that basically have, houses now, and they have a garage, and they actually have kids, and they're like, how do I get out of the house and get away from my kids and get away from my wife, in a
Yeah.
sense? And they go to their
Woodworking.
garage and they have their hobbies. And I not that I love my fiance and I'm going to love any child I have, but I want to create some type of fun
It's
hobby
important.
that completely different, like you were saying, that is that you know nothing about, that you challenge yourself with. And whether it is something that is, I guess, good looking or not good looking, at least it's your own challenge and it's within yourself. And so for me, I'd like to get into some sort of woodworking. What I want to
That's a
make, I
great
have no
one.
idea.
Well, I I've been watching people make spoons on YouTube, carve spoons,
Interesting. Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And
Huh.
very relaxing to me, right? Just to watch them. So like expect
Yeah.
there's several Russian guys that do it, and it's in a different language. And so it's like, I just get to zone out with the right. They're like carving their spoon, but like it's very meditative, right? Spoon carving,
Yeah.
and it don't
Interesting.
require too much equipment or space or anything really. But I'm getting into construction again right now, and it's something I've always
Cool.
done my whole life, but of the past like several years I've had other people do it. But yeah, with the whole Rona thing, well, even pre-Rona, I was collecting my tools again, and starting to put some stuff together. But yeah, building stuff with wood, building stuff with metal, it's
Yeah.
very joyful.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny. I watch a lot of these home shows, which I would never watch when I was younger, but I love them now. And, they show these, a lot of people are using these shipping containers to create pools and to create homes with. And I was like, that'd be sort of cool idea. I want to have so I've been researching, not that I know anything about any of this stuff, but, I've been researching, like, how much is a shipping container? Where can I have it delivered to? And it's like, wow, these things
Right.
are so cheap. So yeah, there's a lot of fun things out there. I think a lot of people, most people should, no matter how rich or how poor you are, that you should always have another activity that makes you feel good, gives you a break from
Yeah,
life.
absolutely. Other than just smoking weed.
Absolutely. Well, you can also
Right.
smoke weed while you're doing
While you do it, that's the beauty of it all. That's totally the beauty of it all. So Brian, back to your traveling quest. You're
Mm,
kind of not in Florida under your own design, really. You were you
correct.
were you're kind of, I shouldn't say forced, but decided you were gonna like go to Florida. Tell us what's going on.
Yeah, so my fiance actually was my girlfriend at the time, but now my fiance. And I wanted to go on a 6.5 month journey before we settled down. And we left at the beginning of March. We're set out to do 13 European countries plus Morocco and Israel. And during our first country, which was Portugal, we got about almost 3 weeks in Portugal when
Mm.
this whole coronavirus thing started. And about, I guess, 19 days now ago, we got a message from the U.S. Embassy saying, look, you can either stay in Portugal for potentially the next 2 years, or you can get on one of the last flights coming back to the United States. And, but you got to figure out your own situation. And so we got on a flight. It was actually the second to last flight leaving Portugal. And we didn't really want to go back to LA, but we didn't want to go to New York, and we wanted to be somewhere warm because that was part of our traveling plans, was to do some European places that were warm. Yeah, in the summer. And
Yeah.
so we chose Florida, which
Yeah.
was actually not the greatest timing of choosing Florida, because when we got here, they were having spring break.
Oh, perfect. Perfect.
And they talk about this whole virus is caused by, not caused by, but a lot of these people that were in Florida on spring break were not doing any social distancing. And when we landed here, we were
No,
like, oh my
no.
God, where did we just come into?
I mean,
So,
spring break for teenagers and college age students has nothing to do with distance other
yeah.
than the distance you traveled to go to spring
Yeah,
break.
exactly. Exactly. And we first landed in Miami. We were in a hotel for 2 nights. Then the hotels got all shut down. And now we're smart, and we moved a little north, and we're in Fort Lauderdale now. And we got an Airbnb, and not an apartment. We got a house so that we could be isolated from
Hmm.
other people. My biggest fear was someone in the building catching it, and then we being stuck in an apartment for who knows how long.
Yeah,
So it's
absolutely.
nice that we're in a house now.
So let me back up for a second. So you got an email from the US government that said you might be stuck in Portugal for 2 years if you didn't leave?
Yeah, yeah. We were actually smart because I don't know why, but I registered on the State Department's website
Hmm.
what countries we were traveling to. So if there was a disaster or some type of emergency, they know that we're there, and they can help facilitate as U.S. citizens for us to potentially get back to the United
Hmm.
States. And so we probably wouldn't have gotten that message if I didn't register. But because I registered, they
Oh,
sent
wow.
a message from the embassy saying that the embassy is now closed in Lisbon, and these are your options. It's up to you to make your own decisions, but we're just giving you the options.
Wow, man, that's incredible, man. So your 6 month voyage was interrupted,
Correct.
and you were still you still work daily on the cannabis LA
Absolutely.
news, right? Right, yeah, right. You just
As
need
long as there's
internet.
internet connection.
It's we're gonna have a conversation after you get back to LA, but we're gonna talk about it right now. So, man, the cannabis industry was just like on kind of a roll right before all this. Like it
Mm-hmm.
was at, I would say it definitely had a peak.
Mm-hmm.
And I say this because several big companies were falling out, and small
Yeah.
companies too. And that's what happens
Yeah.
when you hit a peak,
Yep.
right? One of the things. And so we've just had a peak in the cannabis industry in the country, as well as California specifically, and then the Rona hit, and
Yep.
now things are changing. What
Yeah.
what do you what do you think's going to change?
I think the way that, well, possibly the way that people consume. There's
Hmm.
different
The
studies that,
social aspect of it.
well, the social aspect, I guess you won't be able to pass the joint to each other anymore. That's
Mm,
definitely not going to be happening unless you're
mm.
within family.
Yeah.
And even
Now,
then,
man,
it's still, you
we
never
went
know.
Rasta a couple of years ago, and we try to smoke our own joint. And it's because, man, I kept getting sick because I want to smoke everybody out, and so like now, man, I just like, oh, hey, here's a joint for you. Oh, here's one for me. I'm
Yeah.
like, I can never smoke
Yep.
this. I'm like, I take 2 hits and take it home. It's cool.
I've actually always enjoyed. I've been for the past, I can't even remember how many years. I've only been smoking joints, and I've been smoking them by myself. I really don't like sharing my joints. I like the
Mhm.
first hit, and I like the last hit,
Last one, yeah,
and all
totally.
the
Me
hits in
too.
between.
Me too.
All the hits in between.
Even me and my wife smoke separate joints. We go on our
Nice.
dog walk in the morning. We both have our own hooter. Right. So social aspect, that's going to change. What else is going to change?
I think the way people are getting it. I think that more people will
Mm,
start growing at home. The people that aren't growing at home, I think delivery is going to become a bigger business. As much as I don't want to say it, well, hopefully one day when it becomes federally legal, I think there'll be an Amazon or a Grubhub type of a company that'll start delivering, your alcohol, your food, and your weed with the same package. We'll see how that actually works out and stuff, but I see that delivery right now is, becoming a more of essential, way of getting your products.
Yeah,
And
California
easier
is
too.
unique in that manner, is that they can get delivery, and a few other states do it. In Colorado, we
Yep.
just legalized it up there, and or it's just starting to. In Oklahoma, I think it's gonna be legal, but they're like, man, just hadn't quite figured it out, right? But other
Yeah,
places
Florida,
have it.
where we are now, it's a medical state, and I believe they just started delivery with the coronavirus to make it easier for patients. And as
Mm.
much as I'm not a Florida fan at all, because I'm not, well, my own political view, I'm more of a Democrat, and this is a very Trump state here where we are. But I have to say, the way that they distribute medical here is good. They don't charge taxes. It's looked at as a
Hmm.
pharmacy,
No, sweet.
which I think is how it should be for medical in other states.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah, charge the taxes on
Making it, yeah,
the recreational use, adult use.
yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely. I think that medical patients should be able to, they're already going through hell to begin with. Why tax them money that they
Mm.
potentially don't have to save their own
Right.
lives for, smoking weed as opposed to, taking Vicodin or whatever it is, other pills that they would take instead of the weed.
Yes, I agree with you there, man. There's medical is an excuse to make weed legal in many places. I'm totally fine with that. But
Hmm.
hey, man, I tell you what, people also need weed medicinally too, and we got to figure out how to service both sides of that.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely. I agree. And I think as state by every state seems like they're doing something different. Unfortunately, nobody seems to really know what they're doing. I think maybe in the next 2 or 3 years, there'll be a lot of good examples of some states and bad examples of others. And,
Mm-hmm.
maybe there'll be something more across the board, for every state that's the same in a sense and makes better sense. One of my sort of fears now is that, in California, excuse me, California, it's, deemed essential during these times. All recreational and medical are open. But then I also see that some of these recreational places are not, you know, paying attention to their customers. They're not paying attention to their employees in the sense that, there's no safety. There's lines out the door. Some companies are still having, events at their dispensaries,
Yeah,
and
right.
that's not promoting, a safe
Yeah, man.
environment.
Oh man, you gotta stop and quit. At in Oklahoma, at our dispensary there, Baker's Medical, we just decided to shut the door.
Yeah.
We did this for a couple of reasons, but mostly it's because our big business is commercial sales of clones and flower,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
we wanted to make sure that we could keep continuing to do that.
Hmm.
So we just schedule appointments to sell
Hmm.
wholesale, and
Hmm.
then we just don't let the random public come in. We also have like a
Hmm.
security area, waiting area. So we
Hmm.
schedule people to come in. We put all their
Yep.
product out there, and then they show
Yep.
up. We let them in the door, buzz them in. Bzz. Hey, there's your 1,000 clones in the corner.
Yep.
Count them. And we talk to them through the window. They count out the
Yeah.
money, put it in the
Yep.
envelope so we don't have to touch it.
Yep. That's another
then
great
we take
idea.
then we take the envelope, spray it off with alcohol, then
Yep.
take it to the bank and make them count
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. That's funny. And you know what? You
Right.
just said something that, is, I think, what a lot of owners need to be doing. And I see it seems like that more of your clientele and who your clients are than most other dispensaries that are just, the randoms coming in the door.
Yeah, totally.
And that's one of sort of my feelings, at least in my own opinion, that I feel that dispensary owners, especially on the medical side or even on a higher production side, should know their clients. They should know who their real
Yeah.
customers are so that
Well,
they can
it's
properly help them.
we're on a bus stop, and we're in a working class neighborhood,
Hmm.
and a lot of our clientele comes from just the bus stop, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we realized, like, man, well, public transportation, there's absolutely no social distancing there, right?
Yep.
Like, it's just going to be difficult to, to keep a safe environment by having the public come in. Now, man, I don't know if it'd be any different if it was just a neighborhood shop and only neighborhood people came in. But an awful lot of our traffic is the public transportation, and man, it's just that's just a hard one.
Yeah.
You're When I see people crammed in subways in New York, I'm like, what the
Oh,
fuck?
yeah,
Oh my
totally.
god! Right? Isn't New York only 3 miles long? Shouldn't you just walk?
Yeah, totally. Or ride a bicycle.
Yeah, right, right. I mean, I don't know. That's probably a misstatement, but
Yeah,
I
might
know
be.
it's
Well,
small. It's small.
a lot of people are lazy though too.
Well, that's worldwide. Well, hey, I tell you this, man. Our current environment, throughout Denver, people and Colorado and New York and LA, you hear the authorities saying, "Okay, you can only work out once a day."
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
like people are like, oh
right.
man, I gotta go do something. I'm gonna go work out again. And I think we're gonna see a resurgence in health after this for sure. And
Yeah.
hey, back to our cannabis predictions. You said how people consume, and
Mm-hmm.
if it was a year ago, people would have said, "Oh, well, vaping. I'm gonna vape
Mm-hmm.
because that's cleaner." Right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we had a vaping crisis or
Yep.
scandal, right? Whether it
Yeah.
was real or created, right? Whatever. But a handful of people
It
died on
happens.
illegal vapes,
Yes.
right?
Yep.
Illegal
Yep.
ones.
Yep.
But it affected the whole industry as a whole. But now people's perceptions on vapes are a little bit different. So before it was like smoking was bad. Now it's vapes are bad. I think edible consumption is going to go up considerable amount.
Oh, it's gonna grow hugely. I was
Mm-hmm.
someone who never really liked edibles just because they never sure what you're eating. But now that they've really figured out how to, microdose
All
and
right.
come up with the proper dosages for edibles, I mean, you don't know sometimes what you're smoking. So it's like, from someone who smokes all the time and you get this new type of flower and you think, oh yeah, man, I can handle anything. And then you smoke this huge joint and you're just, totally having a panic attack like I recently
Mm-hmm.
had. Then, you,
This is this is
you're not,
this was your first joint back from Europe or something.
yeah, I haven't smoked in 30 days and I smoked my first joint and I thought I had the coronavirus all of a sudden. And I felt my chest caving in and I was shaking. I almost called 911 and I had to call my brother and my sister and my mom. Like I thought it was it. I thought I was like literally having my
I'm gonna
last breath.
die.
Yeah,
Aaron was
I
like,
had
"Wait,
that moment.
wait a second. Did you smoke some weed?"
Yeah, that's what actually I talked to his wife Rachel, and she's like, "You're having a
Rachel,
panic attack. You need to
you just
calm
smoked some weed,
down.
right?
Think of yeah, think of something nice in a happy place. You'll be fine." And within like
Have
10
some
minutes, I was
sugar.
totally fine. But during that time period, the quarter I received in the mail, I flushed down the toilet during my panic attack. So
You're like,
now I
dude,
have
this
no
is
more flour.
definitely contaminated.
Yes,
Definitely.
totally. And I know better, but at the time I didn't know what the hell was going on,
But
and
you've
so
been
I
eating
flushed it down the
edibles. I
toilet.
mean, my experience with the edibles is your tolerance raises on them. But
Hmm.
like then you
Hmm.
go back to smoking weed and you don't have a smoking tolerance. Is that how it works?
I don't know because I've never really experienced this before. It was sort
That's
of a first time,
okay.
but
Yeah, me neither. I'm
I'm
always eating edibles and smoking weed, eating more,
yeah. That's what that was my biggest mistake was probably not smoking. I had a vape
Yeah.
pen with me when I was traveling, but I don't know, vape pens just
Same.
don't really do it for me so much. And
Yeah. Oh man, you
they
got to have the good ones, dude. Man, we were
yeah.
talking about ABX and Absolute Extracts. They've got one. I can't remember what it's called, but man, that thing is so good. It's like distillate rosin mixed or something.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
just like taking a dab. That's
Yeah.
great, great
But
product.
those pens go very quickly. and like
Oh,
I
yeah,
just
yeah, 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 yeah,
it's like
yeah. But when
I
you're grandma's house or the customs office, you could
yeah,
be like, "Oh, hey,
totally.
customs agent."
Totally. Oh yeah, absolutely. That's the greatest thing about one of the greatest things I think about those is the
Oh yeah.
the being discreet. Being able for that mom and pop that want to continue smoking around their having kids but not wanting the kids to smell it or be
Hmm.
influenced by it. That's one of the greatest
Hmm.
things for vaping.
Yeah.
Is the discreet part.
Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely. And the
yeah,
other
it'll be,
the safety part of it is people usually don't share. Well, I shouldn't say
yeah,
usually don't, but like often people have their own vapes and they just pick
yeah,
it up, they hit it, they put it back in their pocket.
absolutely. And there's not also there's no, if like you just said, in a public type of a space, wherever you are, you don't have to pull out a bag and roll a joint and find a piece of paper to put it on or
Hmm.
whatever, however you do your thing, or if you're packing a bowl and having to dump the bowl out and
Hmm.
worrying about the amount of smoke that comes from either smoking a joint or a smoke in a bowl.
Right, hot
It's like
technique.
vape is very minimal smoke that comes out and it seems like it disappears very quickly,
Yeah.
which
Does
I
it
think
smell the
is
same or yeah.
nah.
Yeah.
And it's
No,
also actually I think it's also cool that there's a company which one of the companies we also featured in our magazine, Filter Labs, which I believe is out of Colorado possibly. They created a patented filter basically where you could take a hit, either whether it's a bong, a pipe, a joint, or even a vape, and blow into it, and
yeah,
literally no
right.
smoke comes out the other side.
Totally.
Zero smoke. You
Oh
could take the
wow.
hugest hit in the world, and somehow or another, this little tiny thing captivates all of it. And I don't, what it does with it, I have no fucking clue. It makes it very friendly to pretty much smoke anywhere, which I'm a big fan of
Wow.
these products.
Yeah, yeah, I've seen similar type of stuff in the past. Smoke
Yeah.
buddies, and I've seen the dryer sheet, paper towel roll
Yeah, that's what I was
contraption.
gonna say. You take the
Right.
toilet paper roll, stuff it a little bit, put the dry, maybe spray some cologne on it, blow in one side, and it comes out the other side smelling like cool water cologne. Which is not a great smell, but when you're in a hotel room,
Right.
it saves you from that $250 fine.
Man, wise words. Wise words. So consumption's going to change. People
Yeah,
are going to people. It's going to consumption's going up.
yeah,
I believe, right?
I believe
And I'll
too.
say this because of the Colorado demographics right now. Uh, 50% of the sales are normally associated with tourism. There's zero tourism in Colorado right now, but the sales aren't so bad because
Yeah,
what do unemployed people do? They smoke more weed, right?
I
What do
was
stressed
just
out people do? They smoke more weed.
Norweed, yeah, yeah. I was surprised when I was in Colorado. Like when you were asking me earlier about prices of cannabis in California and Los Angeles. When so we were recently at this Canopy Boulder program in Boulder, and I tried out a couple of dispensaries in Boulder. It was like $12 an eighth for like
Yeah.
really good shit, and I couldn't figure out why it was so much cheaper in Colorado. Well, more so, I couldn't figure out how they made any money, but it was really really good, and I was really surprised actually by how good the product was there. Not to go off of
Yeah.
subject line, but since you mentioned Colorado,
No,
um,
Colorado has some really cheap cannabis for sure. Good chance. And
yeah,
Colorado and Oregon both have the cheapest,
yeah,
best cannabis. I'll say that.
I
Yeah,
agree.
man, crazy market up there. I mean, people sell $500 pounds of indoor weed there, and they also sell $1,200 pounds. From my perspective, I think since the market's gotten a little bit harder, Colorado weed's gotten better, or at least it's separated. It used to all be like
Hmm.
kind of in the middle, okay, and
Hmm.
now it's some of it starting to stretch and get better than it all because
Yeah,
it's you can go into random dispensaries now, and you couldn't used to do this before, but you can go into random dispensaries now and the weed smells good
yeah.
and it doesn't, and
Fun.
it's dried right.
Yeah.
Right. But that used to not be the case. You'd have to search out the dispensary to go that had great weed, even though every dispensary owner out there thinks they got the best weed. And it's just not true.
It totally is not
Right.
true.
Include
Yeah, you
myself.
got
I know we don't,
yeah,
you know, I know we don't have the best weed at our dispensary, but that we're providing a service. Right.
yeah.
This is what we
And
got. It's
sometimes people actually
inexpensive.
sometimes people prefer the, either lower quality or what have you, because I mean, sometimes I smoke, some of amazing quality and nothing really happens to me. And then I'll smoke something that has, is a less quality and I'll get ripped.
Yeah, well,
I'll get totally get ripped.
that's the plants there, man. That's the plants there. I guess what I just, that harvest and dry period is so crucial into giving that full flavor taste,
Hmm.
right? And the smell, the aroma, like it's so crucial. It's getting
Absolutely.
better in Colorado, in my opinion, right?
I think it'll
Uh,
get better everywhere in time. I sort of, I
oh
have
yeah,
this, thing I always say that I sort of see, and maybe you agree, maybe you don't, that I sort of see the cannabis industry a little bit like the beer industry, in the sense that
hmm
you have these bigger companies, you got your Bud Lights and your Coronas and these bigger companies that will always be there. But, after a while, and you being, also from, living in Colorado,
yeah,
all of a sudden you have microbrews,
yeah,
and the microbrews end up having a
yeah.
way better quality. And I see that in the cannabis industry. I see these bigger companies that people all, love and whether they have good quality or not. And over the next few years, a lot of these mom and pop shops that, are sort of being pushed out of the industry, I think personally are going to come back into the industry as like this microbrew
No,
type of a company,
oh, it's
and they're
happening
going to
now,
end up
man.
surviving. They're going to end up surviving way harder,
Hmm
way better even than these bigger companies. And you're going to have like these fat tire
Yeah,
type of
yep.
companies, for beer, in a sense that for anyone who doesn't drink beer, Fat Tire is a fantastic beer company. And so, you'll have these type of companies that I think will actually end up thriving a lot harder
hmm
later on. But like any business, you got to weed out
You got to
the
weed
good
it
ones
out.
and the bad ones. And right now in the industry, I think that as states come online and some states, either go backwards or forwards, that's sort of what's happening at least in my own opinion.
No, no, you're absolutely right. And we see, I mean, we hear this term too big to fail, but that does not mean if you're a big guy, you're too big to fail. You have to be really, really,
Yeah.
really, 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 really big to not
Yeah.
fail.
Yeah.
And a lot of the big people are failing. I mean, this week alone
Yeah.
in California, we had three big people say they were going to fail. We've had numerous Canadian operations fail.
Yeah. Yeah.
We've seen cash flow from all those Canadian operations now and all the U.S. operations, and they suck.
Oh
And
yeah.
people are bailing out, dude. Shit's shutting down
Yeah.
left and right. But the small guys,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
medium-sized guys, they're actually holding their own.
Some of the ones that decided to go public, in thoughts that,
Mm-hmm.
they're going to be these huge
Yeah,
companies. A lot of them failed in that
don't
in
make
that
it.
regard. And then you have CEOs that started buying private planes and buses and, very expensive cars, and they drained a lot of their company's wealth as well, and just became too big too quick for all the
Oh
wrong
man.
reasons.
Yeah, well, dope dollars spend 100 to 1.
Yeah, it's true.
And you just think it's gonna come in like no tomorrow. And man, fuck, dude. Like it's farming.
Yeah.
Basically, it's farming. And it doesn't
Yeah.
matter if you're, you know, no one in the cannabis industry is shielded from that quote unquote farming activity.
Hmm.
If you're an extraction maker and it's bad outdoor season, then you're not going to have enough, extractable material. The extractable material
Absolutely.
is going to be expensive. If you're same way with your any type of ancillary company, right? If you're selling equipment to growers and the farming sucks, like
Yeah.
you're actually, if your equipment seller and the farming sucks, usually sell more equipment, and when the farming's
Hmm.
great, you sell less equipment,
Yeah. And it's
right?
funny, I see that now as well as in the, for my side, being in, an ancillary, but being in the media of this industry. It's like, when we started, there was no B2B, or not no, but very limited B2B media sources in the industry. When
Yeah,
I was growing up, I would read High Times, and I would be so excited to see like this really cool bud with some guy wearing a bandana, in the magazine, and that was exciting. But
that
now
was
I
it.
look, coming forward, that was a lot of cool stuff because it was illegal then. So it was
Hmm
really fun to read High Times. Now, they've been pivoting left and right, and
Yeah,
other
right.
culture and lifestyle magazines have also been pivoting left and right. And High Times just announced this past week that they're shutting down Dope Magazine, Culture Magazine, and they're even halting their own publication to get into the dispensary world. And so there's a lot of pivoting even in this industry. And for
Right.
us, it was, we're happy that we're still surviving, and we're happy that we're actually a B2B, because I see that at least in the cannabis media side that consumers are consumers. They're not interested in reading cannabis magazines, but business people, however, in
Hmm.
the industry, it seems that they want to know what's happening. They want to know what's legal in their backyard. Can I grow?
Yeah.
Can I sell? Where
Yeah.
can I open this? Where can I open that? How can I invest in this? How can I invest in that? And so for us, at least, we've been seeing, thankfully, a growing trend, at least towards the business to business side of the cannabis media. So,
Every single aspect that a normal business needs, the cannabis business needs. And
yep,
people, when they think cannabis, they solely think of growing weed or smoking,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
That's it. And man, you need everything that
Oh yeah,
any other normal business needs, right? From
yeah.
accounting to HR to like a recycling program and a garbage
Hmm.
program and like a
Oh
hiring
yeah,
program and a firing program. I mean, you need it all,
yeah,
right? And there's so many services out there that people could transfer what they're doing currently and move into the cannabis industry,
yeah.
right? They just,
Sorry, it's funny you say that, because I talk to people in normal insurance. Been selling
mhm.
health insurance
Yeah,
their entire lives, and now they're getting into cannabis. I have a friend who's a real estate
yeah,
person. He's been always doing real estate, personal houses, people's homes and stuff.
mhm.
Now he's getting into cannabis real estate. I know somebody else that does
Yeah,
skincare products, and now he's getting into white
yeah,
labeling
totally.
CBD products.
Yeah,
And,
yeah,
and
yeah,
he's
yeah.
just a packager. He's not actually making the product. He's just packaging. But like, yeah,
Hmm.
like you said, there's all aspects of the industry require all aspects of other industries.
Oh, it's all just starting, man. It's
Oh
all
yeah.
just starting. Well, man, what we should do is we should have another episode in like a year. Okay, it's like April 9th now. So April 9th, 2020. So April 9th, 2021, we're gonna do another episode and we're
I'll
gonna
be at
see
my
about
fancy pool then.
yeah, yeah, there you go. We're gonna see like how these predictions that we just made came true, right?
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
let's just recount what these predictions are. One is the social aspect of cannabis sales and consumption is going to change somehow,
Yeah.
right? The big guys, the big players are falling out and are going to continue to fall out,
Hmm.
and which means like the smaller people from the mom and pops to just the grassroots organizations, they're going to take over
Hmm.
that market share.
Absolutely.
Do we have a fourth prediction?
I do actually. My
Okay.
other prediction is that I think that in the vape market, a lot of the
Mm.
products, not the vape, it's not the distillate or the live resin, not those products themselves, but the
Oh, but the
actual
delivery
hardware.
devices, the delivery
Well, that
devices.
and the
Uh-huh.
hardware right now is all pretty much made in China. And I
Mm.
see a lot of that product, the manufacturing, of the vape pens and the batteries, all that stuff, possibly switching, hopefully, over more into being made in the United States. I don't know how long people are going to be able to buy products from China. Will those
Mm.
products still be able to be shipped into the country? From what I understand already, a lot of vape companies right now are having major problems because they
Mm-hmm.
rely on
Yep.
hardware from
Yeah.
China that they're not
Yeah.
getting right now. And they're going to
Yeah.
have to start, worrying about how do we get these products, how do we get this hardware in the future. So I see a lot of overseas manufacturing of different types of products within the industry being done here in the United States, and that'll also go back to in the
Mm.
sense of um, you know other industries. Basically, maybe you have like a GM type of plant that's starting to make cannabis,
Oh,
lights or
lighting, fans,
extraction products and
bulbs.
things like
All the
that. Yeah,
bulbs are
yeah,
made in China,
yeah,
Europe, but all the bulbs are made in China, right?
yeah,
All the lights, all the light components are
yep,
made in China. All the
yeah,
electronics are made in China, right?
yeah.
Like some of that's going to change. You're
You're
absolutely
gonna
right.
have Baker lighting soon.
I've done that one. Lighting's a difficult one, man. I've put up quite a bit of effort into it, but we've had some we on the lighting, for instance, that's one of the hardest things because China really does make it all. So like I'm
Yeah.
not sure like how that's gonna be able to change,
Yeah.
but like plastic bottles or polymer
Yeah.
or you know, I don't know,
And that's like in the
plastic sheet.
polymer sense. I think maybe, as hemp becomes more, more
Yeah.
universal, there's so many things that you can do with hemp, and there are so many smart people out there that are already trying to do things with hemp that I think they're going to realize that there's a lot more that
Mm-hmm.
you can do with the plants, and hopefully that crosses into manufacturing and people realize that maybe that I don't know much about hemp, but from what everything that I read about, it seems that everything that you can use with
Mm-hmm.
normal material you can also pretty much do with hemp.
Yeah.
And so I think that there'll be a big change in the hemp market. I think that'll be more used on many different industries, not just in the cannabis industry, but the car making industry. Ford made a car out
Well,
of hemp.
textiles. Honestly,
Yeah,
like textiles
textiles. Totally.
left this country 25 years ago and went to China and other places, but
Yeah.
China, like, will it come back? I'm not sure, but like, hemp can help like supply hemp, cotton. I mean, we would, cotton was why this country was really founded, really,
Yeah, for
right, to
sure,
produce
for sure.
textile.
And people are building homes with hemp now, and they're doing everything. So I really
I want to build
I
a
see
hemp
that
house.
actually, right? I see that becoming, and it's actually supposedly the articles and the videos that I've seen is a lot stronger than wood.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Processed
cement
properly.
basically, right?
Yeah, cement.
Oh
So
man, I'm building a hemp house. That's the future. Okay. Ask me about the hemp house, April 9th, 2021.
21. It's weird saying that sometimes. I feel like I'm in Total Recall
It is.
with
I
these
know,
years.
2021. Well, Brian, hey, thanks for coming on the show, man. I really appreciate it. I'm glad we got the chat, and I'm excited about what's going on in California. I look forward to hearing more about it in the coming months and years.
Yeah, Chip. Thank you so much for having me on, and I really enjoyed chatting with you. And during this crazy time right now, it's nice to have a good laugh and to talk about the industry and
Yeah.
talk about its futures and its obstacles. But like you said, this is a strong industry. It's on the ground floor still. Most states are still trying to get there, and I think after this virus clears out, and hopefully this president that there'll be opportunities for federal legalization, and with federal legalization it's you
Coming.
get the commercials, and all these three-letter agencies will lift their bans, and there'll be a flourishing market.
Mm.
So thank you.
It's all just starting, Brian. It's all just starting, right? The next
Yeah.
20 years of cannabis, ganja, hemp are going to be incredible. I'm looking forward to seeing it.
Yeah, me too. Thank you.
Great. Thanks again. Hey, this has been The Real Dirt with Chip Baker. If you like this episode of others, download them on the Real Dirt podcast on iTunes. You can also check us out on Spotify. And if you want, you can go to my website, therealdirt.com. You can look at all the episodes. We've got a great blog. You should join our Facebook group. Join us on Instagram, The Real Dirt Podcast. Love you guys. Have a great afternoon. Well, it was a great episode with Brian Weiss from LA Cannabis News. And yeah, we have made some pretty good predictions. So we talked about the Rona. We talked about what's going to happen here in the future. It's exciting, man. During every revolution, there's fortunes made and lost. And I'm not trying to sound like an asshole because this isn't a revolution, but it is going to be a social and cultural revolution with what's going on with the coronavirus. And we're going to change our attitudes on personal space, social distancing, and for the good and for the better. But there will be opportunity. there always is opportunity and change. And regardless of what happens, things will change, and we're just going to have to flow with it. We can be the salmon and swim upstream, and sometimes I enjoy that. But for the most part, like, what's going on internationally um, with the coronavirus is absolutely going to change the way we feel about cannabis, the way we consume cannabis, and our social interactions involved with it all. So, it's going to be interesting to see it all happen and see it all unfold. I mean, for instance, at Cultivate Colorado, Cultivate OKC, we have set up a will call scenario. So people can just call us and email us, and we'll get their order together. And then when they show up at the shop, they just call and say, "Hey, I'm here for my order. We've got it outside." We make a little exchange, and hopefully it's on credit card, and you don't have to count out any money or anything, but we can do that too. And delivery is a huge part of what we've already done in Colorado and in Oklahoma. Of course, that's all commercial, and often you have to have a loading dock or a forklift, but not all the time. And so the delivery, it's really stepped up as well. And the reality of it all is it's probably better for people not to go to the store and just call up and have people deliver it, or a will call scenario. So I bet we're going to learn a lot from this. I'm not sure if my employees, the people we work with, how difficult it's really made it on them, but there's a learning curve. So if you've had any instances or something where you haven't been able to get what you want, and man, it's stressful times, just take a breath, be like, "Okay, bro," and just try to reapproach it a little bit. But yeah, that's what's going on with us. That's how we're actively changing. I'd be interested in hearing from you on how the coronavirus has changed how you've interacted in your cannabis business. So send me an email, send me a private message, post on Instagram or something, because I am interested. Wondering how it's changing for everybody. But hey, listen, in these bored times, when you're sitting at home and you're smoking weed, because everybody's consuming twice as much right now, and you want something to do, download one of the previous episodes of the Real Dirt podcast. You can get it on iTunes, on Spotify. You can also go to my website, The Real Dirt Podcast, therealdirt.com. And you can see all our past episodes, everything. Man, if you're interested in any cannabis, products or clones or genetics, you can check out our medical dispensary in OKC, bakersmedical.com. If you're a commercial grower, we supply commercial cuttings there. And, like I said, if you need any grow gear, cultivatecolorado.com, cultivateokc.com. And it all starts with the dirt. So get you some grower's soil. That's right, our proprietary cocoa peat perlite blend we make specifically in a sophisticated state-of-the-art indoor facility that's all ours, where we only make this one product for you. growerscocoa.com. Hey, love you guys. Look forward to making another episode for you. It's coming here in just a few days. So check us out, therealdirt.com. The Real Dirt Podcast. Subscribe on iTunes. Love you. Real Dirt.